Welcome to the Lifeline, a production of Simply BJE. The goal of this podcast is to build, inspire, and to empower our listeners through conversations on business, leadership, and mental health. We invite you to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and at www.simplybje.com/The Lifeline. Now, let's tune in for today's episode. Top of the day, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Lifeline podcast, where we are real brothers having real conversations about real life. We're your hosts, Bill Powell, Lindsberg Petway, and Barry J. Elliott, also known as BJE. Today, we welcome Pastor Tanya Gray, who went viral for doing something that has people singing her praises. Her son stole money from a local food truck in Baltimore. She went back to that food truck and reimbursed the owner for what her son had taken. So today, Pastor Tanya, welcome to the Lifeline. How are you today?
Doing well. Thank you guys for inviting me.
We're glad to have you.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Man, this was it's very interesting because when Barry told me who the guest was, I was like, I just saw that video.
Yeah.
But but I had to ask, because I've got children, and I know my son had gotten into some trouble before back in when he was in high school. And I know, man, it was something that we could kind of keep local. It didn't get out, on viral and stuff like that. We didn't really
Right.
have social media going like that. So I'm just curious, when you saw that, when that happened, like, what was going through your head the moment you realized, what your son had done?
I wanted to beat him. When I say that, people laugh. But as a mother, you want to beat him like you have lost your mind. So, I have a lot of people asking me that question. Like, what was your first response? Were you embarrassed? I said, absolutely not. I didn't steal anything. My hand wasn't in anybody's tip jar. But what happens is when you see it as a parent, you're concerned. Because I know my child, I can look at his face. I knew he wasn't all the way there. I knew something was going on. We struggled with alcohol with him for a while. So when I saw it, the first thing I was concerned about was his mental state and his addiction. Embarrassment never entered my mind. I wasn't embarrassed. I was concerned. So when you see something like that, the first thing as a parent you should be is concerned. A lot of times we allow embarrassment to hinder us from doing our diligence, our due diligence. I cannot allow embarrassment to cause me to not be a mother. No, I was concerned.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. And so I'm curious because I think what made it go viral was the fact that you took the money back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what really landed for a lot of people. So what prompted you to kind of take that route, to step in and instead of just kind of staying, taking a hands-off approach with it?
Because for me, it was just the right thing to do. For me, it wasn't even a thought. It was if I'm gonna say I'm a Christian, I want to look like a Christian, even when it's not popular. I don't just want to be called a Christian. I want you to see my life and say that's what Jesus would have done. Jesus would have delivered. He would have restored. And, a lot of times people say you should have just not did anything. Well, no, you don't do anything. This gentleman needed to be restored. He needed to be made whole. So in my eyes, in my mind, that's how he was going to be made whole. It had nothing to do with anything. To be totally honest, I didn't know what viral meant. I just wanted this man to get this $20 or $30 or whatever he said it was, so that he can be okay. And if my son had consequences, he did. At the end of the day, it wasn't about his consequences. It was about Mr. Musa being made whole.
Yeah, because a lot of people would have probably just kind of let it ride, but I guess to see how it may have panned out. But was that kind of the first thing you did, was try to restore him? But you said when you talked about your son being concerned about him, so what was that process look like? Did you take care of him first, or was your first inclination to go back and take the money? Like, how'd that all play out?
To be totally honest, my very first concern is let me get my son. Let me make sure he's okay. Because when you see something in today's society, right? We don't have we don't have what we had back in the day where mama found out and you get a whipping and the neighbors beat you. Now it's viral. Everything is on the internet. The world sees you stealing money out of a tip jar. My concern was my son's mental state, right? You have a person that's battling an addiction. that did something that made absolutely no sense. You have the world that's responding. So when they say the World Wide Web, that gave me a whole nother definition this last week or so. Because when this says the world, it's so everybody was commenting. TMZ was commenting. Good Morning America was commenting. Fox 45 News commented. WJZ commented. WMAR commented. So it wasn't secluded. And now that I looked at TikTok, it was everywhere. I was like, oh dear God. I looked to make sure my makeup was all right. I said, this thing is everywhere. So when I looked at it and I saw how big it was, right? Initially, how big it was before I did anything. I saw my son's mental state. If you are a person that has an addiction, you're at a low point. If you've lost family, your girlfriend don't want to deal with you, your children, you can't see your children, all this other stuff is going on. My concern, let's make sure my son don't commit suicide. Let's make sure this thing don't get him to a place where he gets so mentally bogged down that he say, the heck with it, I don't want to be here. And people might say that's just going a little too far, but it's not. Because when you think about addiction, you think about a person that has literally disconnected with some things that they care about because they can't control what they're doing. So I wanted my son safe. I wanted my son in a conversation. I wanted my son dealing with reality. I wanted him to look and see exactly what damage was caused. And then I wanted him in a safe place. So that was initially, that was it. And then after that, I'm going to get this man his money back because you had no business taking. No, how do you buy a cheesesteak with the man's own money? So this whole thing, you know, I am a real mother, right? Some mother put on airs and they be like, oh no, not little Johnny. No, Johnny, your hand was in that man's tip jar and you was about to buy his cheesesteak with his money. So I'm saying you've lost your mind. You're not thinking clearly. And I wanted my son to literally see the totality. Sometimes you got to put it in their face in order for them to see how foolish it was. Mm-hmm. And that's what my goal was. I need you to see, because we've been telling you with all the other incidents that you've had, how foolish you've been. Now you can see. So I wanted to sit him down and, I wanted to let him be a star of his own reality show.
Wow. So in that moment of covering your son, protecting your son, but also being concerned about your son, it really turned into a situation that could show the world how to handle mistakes, how to teach from an opportunity and character and responsibility from a mistake that you made, but it doesn't really define you, who you are.
Exactly. Yeah. Because we think about it, how many mistakes have we made? If we was to go down the line of people that have made comments on this TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, and we was to start opening up closets, we would have bones falling out all over the place. The only difference, and I told my son, the only difference between your infraction and mine, I didn't go to the World Wide Web, you did. So if you really think about it, and I don't want anybody to think that I'm downgrading what he did because I didn't. So you have people that have gone out here and robbed banks, right? Didn't go to the World Wide Web, robbed the bank. You have people that went out and molested someone, people that have gone out and carjacked someone, and it didn't go to the World Wide Web. This is a person drunk, went in a tip jar and snatched out money that was hanging out the tip jar, right? Went all over the place. So I asked, so then that puts me in a position where I'm asking God, what do you want me to do with this moment? How do you want me to handle this moment? There's a lesson in this moment, and I want to learn every lesson that God has given us in this moment. Because if this is a lesson that God is giving my son to live and not die, then let's learn a lesson. I don't care who's in birth. Let's learn a lesson.
Yeah. Yeah, I shared it with my oldest son and my other son, and his initial comments were one that you would expect. But then I peeled off a couple pieces of the onion that you shared with us about what happened, and he talked about trauma. And I told him, I said, trauma, once it gets trapped, sometimes people react in a different way. And it was a very grown-up moment from him. We're texting, but he said trauma does need to be released.
It not only does it need to be released, trauma needs to be addressed. And sometimes one of the most cloudy pictures you can ever see is the frame in which you're standing in, right? You cannot see the picture when you're standing in the picture frame.
Right.
So I am a 30-year recovering addict. I've been clean for 30 years this year, right?
Wow.
Praise God.
And it was a pivotal moment for me when I look back and I say, God, you held me for 30 years, right?
Wow.
30 years, no relapses, because relapse was not going to be a part of my recovery. But a lot of times you have some of the agencies that'll tell you, in order for you to get it right, you got to relapse. No, that's not true. In order for me to get it right, I had to realize just how low I allowed this thing called addiction to take me. And it happened for me one Thanksgiving. My oldest son that was murdered in 2013 was, I think he was maybe 13. And I was in my addiction. And on that Thanksgiving, I couldn't get to the house to see him because I didn't have any money, because I sat up and smoked crack all night long. So that low moment, not seeing my son, something as silly as not seeing him on Thanksgiving, was my rock bottom. So I needed my son to get to his rock bottom. If your rock bottom is embarrassment on Instagram, let's get embarrassed on Instagram, whatever your rock bottom is. So it has to be addressed, but it's too often that we want to ignore it. Don't ignore it, respond to it.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, and you probably already addressed it in your answers, but how important is it for young people, especially our sons, to learn early about integrity, how it matters, and even if you have to be uncomfortable with getting the lesson, like you just said, if you have to be exposed on the World Wide Web to get your lesson, how important is that to happen for young men as soon as possible so they can become men?
It's vital. It's vital. Think about it. Some of these young men that have things happening to them now that's not addressing the trauma, like you were talking to your son, they're going to grow up and marry my granddaughter. Somebody going to marry my granddaughter. I don't want my granddaughter to be in an empty relationship because somebody's son refused to be a man when he should have manned up because he made a mistake. We have got to stop telling our sons, don't show emotion. Men don't cry. Men don't do this and men don't do that. If you want a well-rounded young man, let him play basketball and cry on the couch.
That's good.
We have to get to a place where we allow the mothering of our boys to also have a place when the fathering is being fathered. You understand what I'm saying? Too often we want them to be these macho men, but never address the emotional instability in their lives. Because in our life, you're going to have breakups, you're going to have disappointments, you're going to have some situations where you just can't handle. And we want them to man up. Well, they can't man up, they're boys. So allow them to nurture that feeling that they have and address it and deal with it so that when they get in a relationship, they don't damage their boys.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's so good.
You understand what I'm saying? And even as a woman, as a woman that had to deal with her son one-on-one just by herself for a certain amount of time. His father's always been there, but his dad was dealing with some issues that he had to address himself, right? So I had to deal with my son. But in dealing with my son, God graced me to put people in my son's life like a Walter Brunson Jr., like a Stanley Newsom, like a Reverend Lamont Baker, that was at the church that I was at, a Monty Wright, that was at the church that became Pop and Uncle, and said, look, boy, you ain't going to do this. We're going to deal with this. But too many times as women, when we find ourselves in that single mother episode that we think that we're in, we're so busy trying to prove that we can do it that we don't bring people in so that these kids can be well rounded, and that's what we need. We need to stop trying to be Superwoman. Y'all need to stop trying to be Chinchilla. Take the case off. Let's deal with it. We don't need the Black Panther in this situation, but we need a father that can connect to his boy emotionally. What do you do when that first girlfriend, that first love break his heart? What are you going to tell him when he's sitting on a chair? He don't want to eat nothing but some Cheetos. I don't want any, my heart, no heart is broken. What are you going to tell him? Are you going to tell him to man up? Or are you going to help him to deal with his emotions so that when he get in a situation like this, he don't fall apart?
Right.
Right?
That's
He
good.
don't fall apart because that embarrassment is just as bad as this one. When all your homeboys know that your boo made you boo-hoo, that's just as embarrassing. So it's just on a different level. And I just get to a place where I think our young men would fare well by tapping in to all of their emotions, not just the ones that society say is acceptable for a male. Because when you look at our world today, we need some men that can stand up and say, that's not right, and that's surely not right. And help these young men tap into what manhood really looks like.
That's good. That's good.
That's good.
You said something earlier, and you were talking about how your son, many times people, they're more concerned about their embarrassment because they're concerned about image. That's an issue in our community. We're more concerned about image. How did you get to the place where the image wasn't a factor, where you were more concerned about your son and not necessarily the family image?
When I realized in my addiction that I had to be more concerned about healing than looking like what you wanted me to look like. And I use broken English because that's what we do in the hood. You're looking like what you want to look like. So don't come for me and tell me what I should look like. Help me to look like it, right? So if I'm in a place where I'm broken, don't ignore my brokenness. Help me to be healed. If I'm running around and I'm hollering at people and screaming at people and always snapping back and popping my neck, you need to check me and ask me what's going on with you, because they didn't do anything to you. Sometimes it's that deep-rooted problem, that deep-rooted issue that you never address that causes us to lash out and leech out on people, right? I don't care what anybody says when it comes down to what they think I should appear to be. What I care about is being healed, being healthy, and being whole so that I don't damage someone that God bring in my path, and I don't misuse the story that he gave me, or I don't miss a moment that he gave me because I'm so angry about my boyfriend that left me at prom at 59 years old.
Yeah.
Because that's what we do. We go all the way back in yesteryear and pick out something that validates my anger. I can't be angry unless I'm angry at me for not being the best version of me, because God gave me all the tools.
Yeah.
We have all the tools that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. If we are made in the imago Dei of God, that means there is something in me that has to look like you. And even with my stripes, even with my bloody back, even with my thorn, even with the holes in my hands, after you crucified me, there's something in me that has to say, you too can rise. Go ahead and get your tears out. Go ahead and be hurt. Go ahead and be broken. But at the end of the day, understand that the only way to heal is to go get some help.
I like that. I like that.
Teach.
Looking back at the situation.
I'm sorry.
Looking back at the situation with your son, if you could go back and change anything, would you?
No.
Okay.
No, absolutely. I would not. I would not. And I know that might sound weird, because some mothers would say, I take back that he ever did it. Okay, you can take back him doing it, but you still got an alcoholic walking around your house. You can take back him doing it, but you still got a child walking around depressed. You can take back him doing it, and you still got somebody in a broken relationship and it needs to be healed. So thank God for knowing how to pull the covers back. Thank God for understanding how to correct me and care for me all at the same time. I see the trash in the treasure, but the treasure is not trash. We just have to learn how to clean up the trashy parts of us. And that's what he's doing now. He's cleaning up the trashy parts, but he's not. And I told my son this last week, you're not the trash that you did. What you did was trashy, but you're not the trash that you did. The trash was putting your hand in that man's tip jar and lying about buying his cheesesteak. That's what you did. That was trash.
Right.
But you're not the trash. And
That's
a lot
good.
of times we make our young people feel like they are trash receptacles because we allow people to dump in us and dump on us as if they're standing perfect. My story, my children know I'm 30 years clean. I became Pastor Tanya because I was willing to go through a storm because I could have died in the storm. But you come through the storm so that you can stand. And I told them, you will rise. Don't worry about it. If people, everybody gonna know who I am. You should have thought about that when you stole that man money.
Yeah.
When you was tipping to the tip jar, you wasn't worried about who saw you.
Wow.
It was tipping to the tip jar. All tipsy.
All tipsy.
Go to
I
tip
know.
jar.
I know. Bo has to say something, but you said something earlier, and I think it's critical. You said that when you were talking about the possibility of him committing suicide, that to some people that may be like going all into the left field. But reality of it is there are a lot of young people now that are committing suicide because of social media. So that's realistic. That's not fairy tale. That's not far-fetched. That is something that's happening, and statistics prove it. So I'm glad that you had the bandwidth and that you were broad in your thinking to recognize the possibility of what happened that could happen. And not having the attitude that that's not going to happen to my son. Well, you got to think like that.
Well, let me say this, and I know Mr. Bo has something to say because him in that cave of a doodle mind he got. I've been in the cave ever since he said it, but when you have walked, when you have rocked a cradle, right, for a child as a baby, and walked behind a casket of the same child 26 years later, it hit different. So where someone would say, maybe you're overreacting in your thinking, I have to respond, King Memorial Park teaches me to overreact in my thinking. Because I went to the store one night with a live child, and I came home to a murdered child on my step.
Wow.
Not the benefit of a phone call and come to shock trauma. I am on the scene before the police and the ambulance got there.
Wow.
So, and it is nothing but the grace of God that, and it's like God shielded me from the ugly of the moment. I saw the moment. I knew the moment I was in, but God shielded me from the ugly of the moment. That's a conversation off camera, but he shielded me for the ugly in that moment. But it was the reality of the moment. And once you have allowed not one son, maternal, but two sons, paternal, murdered a day apart from each other. At shock trauma at 8:09 one night, and on your way back to shock trauma before midnight the next night, it hits different. So for those mothers or those fathers that know they have those troubled children, do not underestimate what could happen, because I never thought it could happen to mine, but it did. And I'm not willing to ignore the second child. And it's not only him. I have a daughter that's just out dealing with alcoholism. So, as a mother, I'm constantly on guard. I'm just praying them through.
Wow.
I'm praying them through. Me in that cave. I'm in the cave too with you, Mr. Bo. I'm in the cave.
Come on now. Come on now. You've touched on this a few times in some of your responses, Pastor Tanya. But I really want to lock in because, there was varied responses to the video about your son. And there was many negative comments, which we understand, seeing all those things, people talking about you, all that stuff that could lead to some very drastic things that can happen. But many people would rather see retribution than recovery. So I really want you to speak about, that issue that we have in society about, just like you said, just throwing somebody away because of mistake. Can you really speak to that larger issue that we have as a society? And what you would like to see, uh, as it relates to that. You see what I'm saying?
I would like to see Facebook bullies grow up. That's what I would like to see. So let's be real. A lot of times, people respond so that they can be responded to. Hurt people, right?
Yeah.
I understand that. I understand that we live in a society where instead of me showing you compassion or care, I'm going to pop off on you because that lights the fire and keep the fire going. So if the fire is lit under Facebook or Instagram, I'm gonna get somebody to follow me because you like to run your mouth and I like drama, right? I do not respond to Facebook drama. I do not respond to Instagram or TikTok drama because at the end of the day, I can't live through Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok. I live in the reality of a home where I have a child that did something he shouldn't have done, and I'm dealing with an addiction. So those negative comments, you do not even get any of my attention. You are obsolete and you are irrelevant.
I
Period.
love it.
Period. Because what we do, instead of us finding a solution, we pause for foolishness. And you cannot pause for foolishness when lives are on the line. We have some young people whose lives are on the line. Thank God for the podcast that you guys do. Thank God for the ministry of the cave of Adullam Conversations from the Cave, because you don't know who you might save. If I stop and answer every negative, if they want to talk about something, talk about their president thinking that he's Jesus. Talk about that. You want something to talk about? Don't talk about the $13 in the tip jar. Because mama can handle the $13. And when I say that, I don't say that lightly. I say it because we find the stupidest stuff to pick on. But there was some comments. I had a person, and I don't know who he was, but he said, can somebody connect me with the mother? Because I want to help pay for recovery for this child. That's a comment. But when you have a comment, oh, she's enabling him. No, enabling him is going to buy him a pair of Jordans with the $30 I paid the man back. He's not enabled. The internet made sure he's not enabled because that boy is embarrassed. He should be. Absolutely 110% should be. Because if that's what keeps you from dying on the street, go be embarrassed.
Yeah.
Go be embarrassed. We have to be able to stand up for what is right and forget what anybody is saying, because opinions will cause you to be numb and silent. I don't care what they're talking about.
Yeah.
You're right.
You want to talk about something? Come take them to an NA meeting. Talk about that. Talk about you picking them up, taking them to a meeting.
Right.
That's what I'm talking about.
I don't say it to be arrogant. It's just the reality of where I am with this whole thing. We have some children that's in trouble, and they need some help. They don't need to be ridiculed. They need some help. I hope I answered your question. If I didn't, run it back.
No, you very much did, because I think a lot of people, like you said, they're internet bullies, and because they're hurting, they tend to look at things through a lens that is not compassionate. And so I believe that represents a very large issue that we have in our society, because the thing about it, it's hard to hate up close. When you're far away from something, it's very easy to look down and attack people. But you're right. You know what I'm saying? And I love the fact that someone said, hey, let me get connected to her so I can get involved. right? And that's really how things are really supposed to be. So this has just been an amazing conversation that we've had. And I want people to be able to connect with you. I know, Pastor Tom, you said you didn't know what viral was. So, I know social media is not your big thing.
You're official now.
You're right.
Well, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you what happened to me today. I was sitting at my desk, and the secretary of my old church called me. A lady in Virginia saw the interview today. This is a week and a half later. Must have gone through Facebook and looked at every Tanya Gray and found my picture.
But they
Went through my Facebook and saw me preaching at my old church, New Christian Memorial, and called the church to see if I would come and speak at a women's conference because she was impressed with the interview, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Mind you, the interview was not, I had no idea when I gave this man $30 that I'm so weird. I didn't know when he said, well, I'm going to share with my friends. I said, sure, go ahead. Tell your friends you got your money back. If you looked at the video, I turned around and was going to my car.
Yeah.
I had no clue what that really meant. I just wanted him to be okay. So if it takes this to help some mother that's struggling with a child and she don't know what to do with that child, call me. Let him be embarrassed. Don't try to hide it. Don't try to sugarcoat it. I know that Saturday when my son came, he was mad at me that day. I said, that's fine. He was walking around the house. I said, ain't no tip jars in here. What you looking for? There's no tip jars in here. So, sometimes, and I had to make light of it in the house because it was so serious on the street. And I said that to him because I needed him to know, even though it was bad, boy, I'm still your mama. I still got your back. We still good.
That's good.
Wow.
We're still good. So no, I did, Mr. Bo, I had no idea what it meant to go back until somebody called me and said, you on the Today Show? I said, that's a who?
Wow.
That's amazing.
That's amazing. So with that being said, now we ain't gonna give your phone number out on the podcast, but how can people connect with you? Via Facebook, Instagram. How can they connect with you on social media if you have a website, whatever that may look like?
I do. And this is what's weird. This is how much I'm on it. I don't even know what my Facebook name is. I think it's Tanya Gray.
Okay.
Yeah, you do have a Tanya Gray page. You do.
I think I have a Tanya Gray page. But I'm going to tell you what's more important than that Tanya Gray page. There's a page that's called Unlimited Breath Ministries. That is the ministry that I pastor through. That ministry is connected to a treatment center. I minister twice a month at 5616 Park Heights Avenue, right? Unlimited Breath Ministries. I am ministering to maybe 65 to 70 addicts, active addicts.
Wow.
So, if anybody want to come see me at 5616 Park Heights Avenue. Second and fourth Sunday, I will be right there. Or find me on Facebook. Do what the lady did in Virginia. Find me on Facebook. Yeah. Or ask Barry. He know. I don't know.
Well, we're gonna help Pastor Tanya get on social media and get us stuff together so people can connect with you.
Help me. Listen, I'm telling you, it is when I said yes to God, as far as ministry was concerned, pastoring, right? I am probably one of very few people. I am not as connected on social media as a lot of people are, right?
Yeah.
And one of the reasons is because the darkness of the ministry that God sent me to sometimes has to be done in the shadows, right?
Yeah.
I'm dealing with people that's dealing with addiction. So I'm dealing with broken people who are separated from their families. They don't want to be on camera. I'm dealing with people that are homeless. They don't want to be on camera. I deal with prostitutes. They don't want to be on camera, right? Yeah. Not that social media is not good, because it is, because I get to see you guys. And then when you open up the cave, I'm going to be popping in, and I'm going to be popping in with podcasts, because I love this setting. But a lot of times where God has me ministering, It's in the ministry that other people don't want to do. It's in those back alleys. I will put a tent. Like on Sunday, I was supposed to have been having church, but the center shut down because they went to the NA convention. So I cook for my ministry every 2 weeks, and it comes out of my pocket. And I don't just give them some food, I give them food. I had hot dogs, hamburgers, seafood salad. I had soda, juice, all kinds of stuff. But the center shut down and I'd already cooked. I got in my car. My husband got in his car. I got the address of each one of those houses, and I pulled up in front of each house, put a table out, put some food out, and said, y'all coming outside to eat. I can't come in to preach, but you surely can come and eat. So it's that kind of ministry. So if they want to come and support, so come support that.
And let me say this, Bo. I think it's important that you just taught us a powerful lesson. I believe that ministry was never meant to be a clickbait. Ministry was meant to serve people. So I want to say thank you for doing ministry in a way that honors God and that honors the kingdom, because the Bible is clear about doing what you do in secret and God rewarding you openly. So I appreciate that.
And he has, because who would have known little old me just gone nationwide? I don't know what's going on here.
That's amazing.
I just did what my heart said to do. And I do believe that, Barry. I do believe that God says what you do in private, I will reward you openly.
That's what Jesus said. Yeah.
Let me tell you, I was at a launch ceremony on Sunday. I presided a launch ceremony on Sunday.
I saw it.
I never go in, and I never go in those offering lines, right? But the person who I presided over we call each other twin, a really good friend of mine. So I wanted to sow into her ministry, and I sowed. Before I sat in my seat, I'm going to my phone because my granddaughter's home. And in that room, somebody sent me $300.
Wow.
In that room. And the person who did it, I knew for a fact, it said a seed of obedience. And I knew it had to have been God. I knew it. I knew it because of the person that it was.
Wow.
I knew. You don't know my phone number. I don't know how these people tracking me down lately. When I tell you, but God is rewarding me for some reason. I just want to be obedient and not squander the moment.
Amen.
That's it.
And I think that's amazing. And just to put this out there, because there may be some others out there who have that same perspective, which I think is absolutely great. But the beauty of social media is you get to put out what you think is required to put out, you know? And that's the beauty of it. But if you have a voice that needs to be heard, then it needs to be heard. And people need to get
told me
access to that.
you said that to me the last time. And then Mr. Lynn in his nice jacket the last time, he put it all the way out there, and I felt convicted because I didn't have a social media big presence. But you know what? You're absolutely right. But I've already given God permission. Whatever you want to do, that's what you do. I have no fight in it. So I've been going to my little page and posting stuff. I felt real good. I posted 3 times in one day. I told my granddaughter I'm growing up.
Yeah. I just, and I God needs more people he can trust with the right mindset out here on the airwaves. And I think that's very, very important. But this has been an incredible conversation. And so I hate to bring it to a close, but people go to Facebook, find Pastor Tanya Gray, let her know how she's encouraged you, because I know you've been encouraged by what she's had to share. And I like to say there's moments like these remind us that our responses in real time often reveal our deepest values. Whether people agree or disagree with how this was handled, one thing is extremely clear: decisions made in the heat of the moment can carry lasting impact. So hopefully this conversation challenges us all to think more intentionally about how we show up, what we stand for, and the example we set for others watching. To our listeners and viewers, this concludes another episode of The Lifeline with your host, Barry J. Elliott, Lindsberg Petway, and yours truly, Bo Powell. We're on a mission to bring light and life into the places people don't always talk about. We're real brothers having real conversations about real life here on The Lifeline. Y'all take care.
Thank you for listening to today's episode with host, business expert, and life coach Bo Powell, social media influencer and entrepreneur Lindsberg Petway, and leadership coach and mental health advocate Barry J. Elliott. Join us next week for another impactful conversation on the Lifeline. God bless.